Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Roronoa Zoro ate a devil fruit? But not just any fruit, a broken one. The Kiri no Mi, the slice fruit, letting him cut literally anything. How would this change his journey, and what would it do to his philosophy as a swordsman? Well, let's find out. Our story would begin at the Baratie. Zoro has just been completely defeated by Dracula Mihawk. His chest would be a roadmap of bandages, his two swords shattered, and his pride at its lowest point. He would make his new vow to Luffy that he will never lose again. This vow would be the most important thing to him. He would be in a feverish haze recovering on the sea restaurant when Sanji would bring him a plate of food. Zoro, barely conscious from the pain, would not even look. He would just grab the food and scarf it all down. But mixed in with the meal would be a small, disgustingly patterned purple fruit. It would taste terrible, but he would be too far gone to care. He would finish the plate and pass out. When he woke up, something would be different. He would feel a strange heaviness. He would look at the ocean, and for the first time, he would feel a deep, unnatural hatred for it. He wouldn't know it yet, but he had just traded his ability to swim for a power that would change his entire destiny. From there, the crew would head to Arlong Park to save Nami. Zoro would still be in no condition to fight. He would be a walking mummy. His wounds from Mihawk held together by sheer willpower. He would get separated from Luffy and end up facing Hachan, the six-sword-style fishman. In the original timeline, this was a struggle due to his injuries. This time, as Hachan attacked with his six-sword waltz, Zoro would move to block. His new, unknown power would activate on instinct. A faint energy would coat his blade, and he would slice all six of Hachan's swords in half, lengthwise. Zoro would be confused by this easy victory. It didn't feel like his own skill, and he would hate this new, unearned power. He would decide then and there to hide it, vowing to rely on his own strength. After Arlong's defeat, the crew would arrive in Logtown. This is where the timeline would really start to warp. Zoro would need new swords. He would walk into Ippon Matsu's shop and find the cursed Sandai Kitetsu. He would still do his test, throwing the cursed sword into the air. But this time, it would not be luck. As the blade fell, his new devil fruit power would flare up, responding to his strong will. He would subconsciously cut the sword's curse and its momentum. The shop owner, terrified by this display of pure domination, would give him both Sandai Kitetsu and Yubashiri for free. Tashigi would still confront him, but she would be completely overwhelmed by his new, powerful aura and would not be able to challenge him. Their journey would continue, and they would eventually arrive at Alabasta. Here, Zoro would face his biggest challenge yet, Dazbones, Mr. 1. This would be the ultimate test of his philosophy. He would be facing a man he could not cut with skill alone, but his internal conflict would be at its peak. He would refuse to use the fruit. He had to learn to cut steel on his own. The battle would begin. Mr. 1 would turn his arms into blades. Zoro would try to win with his own skill, but his swords would fail to cut Mr. 1's steel body. Mr. 1 would easily defeat him, leaving him bloody on the ground. Facing another humiliating loss, Zoro would be forced to make a choice. He would stand up and activate his fruit, coating his blades in its power. His next onigiri would slice right through Mr. 1's steel body as if it were paper. But Mr. 1 would still be standing. He would laugh, saying that even though he was cut, he was not beaten. Zoro would then realize his fruit was just a tool. It could cut steel, but it could not cut a man's will. He would still need to achieve the breath of all things. Closing his eyes, he would find it. He would combine his new philosophy with his devil fruit power. His final Ei Shishi Son would not just cut steel, it would cut the concept of Mr. 1's defense. Dazbones would be defeated. His devil fruit power itself feeling useless, Zoro would have won, proving that his will was still the most important part of his swordsmanship. With that done, the Straw Hats would then be on their way, eventually forgetting about Skypiea. That is, until the knock-up stream suddenly sent them flying up anyway. At Skypiea, Zoro would find his new power completely useless against Enel. His fruit could cut concepts, but it could not cut a Logia user's intangible body, especially one made of lightning. This would reinforce his Alabasta lesson. His fruit was not a replacement for true strength. He would be defeated by Enel, just like the others, and would have to rely on Luffy to win. This would make him even more determined to master his own skills, like Haki, which he did not have a name for yet. After floating back to the blue planet's surface, the Straw Hats would then visit Long Ring Long Land. They would not take part in the Davy Back fights, however, since they'd rather just beat down Foxy's crew instead. Eventually, they'd come face to face with their biggest threat so far, Admiral Aokiji. This encounter would go very differently. As Aokiji moved to freeze Luffy and Robin, Zoro would try to intervene. He would coat his swords in his fruit's power and try to cut the ice, but he would find his power struggling. He could cut the substance of the ice, but he could not cut the Logia's power behind it. He would be frozen, just like in the original, proving that he still had a long way to go. With that done, the Straw Hats would then head towards Water 7. Most of this arc would play out the same. Usopp would still leave the crew, and Robin would be captured by CP9. The Straw Hats would then head to Eni's lobby to get her back. This is where Zoro's power would truly begin to shine. He would first face Kaku. The fight would be intense. Kaku's new giraffe powers and his Tempest Kick techniques would be a serious problem. Kaku would unleash his Rankyaku Amanadachi, a storm of slicing wind blades. In the original, Zoro had to block this with Azura. This time, Zoro would have another option. He would activate his Kiri Kiri no Mi and cut the wind itself. The Tempest Kicks would simply split in half around him. Kaku would be in shock, unable to understand how his attack was neutralized. Zoro would then use his fruit to cut the distance between them, appearing in front of Kaku in an instant. He would still need to unleash his full power. He would activate Azura and combine it with his Devil Fruit. His new attack, Azura Conceptual Nine Sword style, would not just cut Kaku's iron body, it would cut the concept of his defense, defeating him instantly. After escaping Eni's lobby, the crew would get new bounties and the Thousand Sunny. Their journey would then lead them to the Florian Triangle. There, they'd meet Brook, and the events of Thriller Bark would begin. Zoro's first major fight would be against the zombie Ryuma, who possessed Brook's shadow. This would be a crucial moment. Zoro would recognize Ryuma as a fellow master swordsman. He would feel it would be an insult to use his Devil Fruit. This would be a fight of pure skill. Zoro would use his training, his strength, and his will to overcome Ryuma, eventually defeating him with his one-sword style, Flying Dragon Blaze. Ryuma, satisfied, would bequeath his legendary sword Shusui to Zoro. He would have won this battle with 100% his own skill, reinforcing his core philosophy. But the arc would not be over. Bartholomew Kuma would arrive. Kuma would be an unstoppable force, defeating the entire crew. He would then offer to take Luffy's pain, and Zoro would offer his life instead. This scene would play out exactly the same, up until the most critical moment. Kuma would extract all of Luffy's pain and fatigue, forming a massive red paw of pure energy. He would tell Zoro to take all of it. In the original timeline, Zoro had no choice but to endure. This time, he would have another option. He would look at the bubble of pure pain. He would question if it was possible. Could he cut it? He would grip his swords, coating them in the shimmering energy of the Kiri Kiri no Mi. He would slash at the giant paw of pain. The bubble would not explode. It would not vanish, but his swords would connect. He would have successfully cut the concept of pain. However, this would not destroy it. It would only sever a small piece of it from the main bubble. This small piece would then enter his body. The agony would be immediate, a white-hot fire that would nearly stop his heart. Zoro would realize the truth. He could cut the pain, but he would still have to take it. After this, the crew would finally arrive at the Sabaody archipelago. They would punch a celestial dragon, and an admiral would be called. Kizaru would arrive. Zoro, along with the rest of the crew, would be completely outmatched. He would try to use his fruit to cut Kizaru's light, but he would find it impossible. He could not cut a Logia's intangible body without Haki. This would be his new wall, the same wall he hit against Aokiji and Enel. His ultimate fruit was useless without a way to force a conceptual cut onto an opponent who was not physical. Kuma would arrive and, one by one, send the crew flying. Zoro would be sent to Kuraigana Island, Mihawk's home. Zoro's training with Mihawk would now be completely different. He would not just be asking to learn Haki. He would ask Mihawk a different question. How do you cut a man who cannot be cut? I have a power that lets me cut anything. but it fails against light and ice. Why? Mihawk would understand. He would train Zoro in armament hockey, teaching him that hockey is the only way to force a conceptual being into a physical one. Zoro's new goal would be to combine his armament hockey with his Kiri Kiri no Mi. This would be his new, ultimate fighting style. When Zoro returned after 2 years, he would not just be a master of hockey, he would be a master of conceptual cutting. He would be able to cut an opponent's hockey. He would be able to cut a Logia's element. His first display of this would be on Punk Hazard, where he would encounter Monet. Instead of just intimidating her, he would cut her snow element, leaving her in a state of shock, unable to reform.